Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the increasing number of pro-Brexit business leaders who are complaining about this self-defeating policy that they all supported just a few months ago. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So 2021 has been notable for a number of things as the reality of Brexit has started to bite. One of them has been to see Brexiteers who have been suffering from the inevitable consequences of their political wishes suddenly turning on Brexit in some form. Not that they all turn on it as a concept. Some of them attack the way it was done, as if their delusions are still perfectly reasonable. Like June Mummery, for example, a former Brexit Party MEP who has a business in the fishing industry, or did do, auctioning fish. Not sure how well it's doing. Not very well, I don't think. She's one of those who gives the impression that she believes it was possible to tell EU fishing fleets that they wouldn't be allowed to fish in our waters, but that the EU would be fine with us selling the fish that we would catch here, you know, by non-EU fishermen, trade barrier free in their own market. I mean, we don't even get to sell that fish trade barrier free on the EU market, even though we haven't clawed back much of the fishing quotas. Imagine how difficult it would have been if we had. But whereas her former boss, Nigel Farage, keeps a little bit quiet on how Brexit has impacted fishing these days, Mummery rants and raves about how the government sold fishing communities out. Probably something to do with the fact that Farage, you know, he may be asked about it now and then and he'll take the same line, but he hasn't really been harmed by Brexit. He was a grifter before, he's a grifter now. He just changes what he grifts on. Mummery knackered her business with Brexit. Not that I mind her trying to persuade people that the government sold the fishing industry out. I mean, they did, just not in the way that she is alleging. But it's all good. I would prefer it if people understood exactly what Brexit is, but as long as they realise that the Conservatives lied to them and delivered them economic and social harm, hopefully it will reduce the number that support them come the next election. But there have been less ranty bosses who have also been bemoaning Brexit. You know, we know about Tim Martin, who owns Wetherspoons, the pub chain, for example, who, because of Brexit, now struggles to get staff and is running out of beer. But the chief executive of Next has also been attacking Brexit when they supported it as well. He called the government's Brexit immigration policy insane for causing the critical lorry driver shortage. This guy is a Conservative politician himself. He's a Conservative member of the House of Lords and was a vocal supporter of Brexit. Another case where he would argue that he's not against Brexit, just a particular implementation of Brexit. But here's what he said, quote, "It strikes me as being insane that despite the fact that everyone knows that we desperately need drivers, the Home Office are still preventing people coming to this country to work as drivers." Now, I would agree on one level, this is insane. However, it was also government policy long before Brexit happened. See, June Mummery, as dumb as she appears to be, doesn't come across as quite as idiotic as this guy. See, she complains that the government promised to take full control of our fishing waters. Now, that didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because there aren't actually enough British fishermen to even fish the quotas we had as EU members. If you look at the quotas that we had in our own waters, half of the fishermen in the British fleet were foreign anyway. We didn't actually have enough British fishermen to do that. But it also didn't make sense because such a move would have meant a literal no-deal Brexit, so we'd be selling even less fish to the EU than we are now because there'd be tariffs slapped on top of everything else. Bear in mind, we already sell less fish than we did before Brexit. This is why our fishing industry is knackered. It's not just that it hasn't got better, it's actually got worse. But the government did promise to do what she wanted, what she's saying they should have done. They promised to do that. They didn't do it. They lied about it, but they did promise it. The government did not promise to make exceptions with their Brexit immigration policy to take account of critical shortages. They promised to end EU migration of this sort. It was Priti Patel's flagship policy. It has been since 2019, when you'll never believe it, we got a Prime Minister insane enough to make her Home Secretary. So although it is insane that we don't tailor our immigration policy to our immigration needs. I'll tell you what's more insane: listening to the party you are a member of in government boast about how they're going to end EU economic migration to Britain, and then appearing to be shocked when they actually implement a policy of ending EU economic migration to Britain. It's one of the few policies that they talked about and actually implemented. Was that what was so shocking? That their own party actually implemented one of their own promises? Is that what shocked them? Then we move to another Brexit Party candidate. Not one who won an election in this case, not particularly big business leader, but a guy by the name of Wajid Ali, who is a taxi driver. He stood as a Brexit Party candidate. He's now complaining that Brexit has knackered the taxi industry. He's demanding that his local council does something about it. When I first read it, I thought, does he expect Wakefield Council to unilaterally rejoin the EU? I think if such a piecemeal approach were possible, I'm pretty sure the Scottish Parliament would have done that already. As it happens, that's not what he wants. He wants them to allow taxis to be more polluting, something that might actually do, because this is really what Brexit is about for people like this. Brexit is different things to different backers of the policy, of course, but to conservative business leaders, it was always about deregulation. Allow them to run their business less safely, fewer workers' rights, preferably none at all, and less competition, because they're not actually very good at running a business. You know, they don't back themselves to succeed as part of a large market. So what they want you to do is to shrink the market, and that's what Brexit was about. Shrink the market we operate in, and you improve their odds of survival. That this comes at the expense of everyone else is not their concern. They're poor business leaders. They can't run a business efficiently and successfully, so they want the odds stacking in their favour. In fact, I wonder if there are any Brexit Party politicians or candidates who have anything to crow about since Brexit. Because, you know, all I hear about is them complaining that it's knackered their business. Knackered their business, knackered their business. I've not seen a single one pointing out how it's improved their business. You'd think there'd be at least one. And it wouldn't be hard for them to be heard. You know, the Express and the Mail would love to run articles on it. Oh, they'll run articles every day on the same thing. The government would also give them voice, because it's getting very tiresome for them all trying to blame everyone else for the consequences of Brexit. They'd love to be able to talk about a benefit. There's none to be had. You know, this is what makes it especially annoying from the point of view of driving a public debate, I think. The debate should only be tricky if there are benefits and drawbacks, and what you need to do is to persuade people that the benefits do not compensate for the drawbacks. You know, you'd have to find ways of quantifying the impacts, and some of them would be very difficult to do that with. But there are no benefits. There are lots of easily quantifiable drawbacks. You don't have to quantify all of them. There are plenty that are easily quantifiable. Lots of fishing businesses can't trade at all. Drawback. Many of those who can still sell their fish, but not as much because of the delays in getting it to market. So it's gone off by the time you'd get there, so that limits the amount you can fish. So they've had to cut back on what they can fish. Drawback. The only wins in the fishing industry is a small pocket of Scottish fishermen who are actually doing all right out of it, because there were some changes to the quotas, but it's not even a net win for Scotland, because there's still an overall net reduction in value of the Scottish fishing industry. You know, retail's knackered, as illustrated by this boneheaded Brexit supporting boss of Next. Food supplies are knackered. Medical supplies are knackered. It costs us more to travel abroad now. There are things we're struggling to buy in Britain now. You know, you go sector by sector of our economy, and it's Brexit loss after Brexit loss every time. No benefits, only drawbacks. Should be the easiest debate in history to win. But of course there is no debate, because we have a government and most of the mainstream media suppressing that debate. And I'll tell you something else I've noticed. You know, it's a little bit like when the Conservative politicians behind Brexit try to avoid blame for their handiwork. You know, they started saying a few months ago that they didn't understand the Brexit deal. David Frost, the guy who negotiated it. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister who won a general election boasting about it and signed it into law. Tory MPs like Ian Duncan-Smith, who said Parliament didn't need time to scrutinise it. Opposition MPs were going, we need time to look through this properly. There might be a few little pitfalls. Ian Duncan-Smith said, don't be stupid. We don't need time to scrutinise this. Later on saying he didn't have time to properly understand the deal. You know, all variations on the theme of saying, I was too thick or ignorant to know what it all meant, so don't blame me. These business leaders are doing the same. You know, this isn't what I understood Brexit to be about, is what they're saying. You know, it's one thing to be conned, you know, to have fallen for the lies of these Brexit snakehole salesmen and women. What I find a source of real, genuine national shame is that as a country, we listen to these same people saying that they didn't understand the basics, that they didn't actually know what Brexit meant, and that we're not demanding that they immediately step aside from their powerful positions in favour of people who do understand how it all works. But it doesn't matter how much they deny reality, it doesn't actually stop it being true. So we're going to continue to see business leader after business leader suffering from the Brexit that they campaigned for, and we'll see more of them complaining about the impact on their companies. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further. Please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.